Hi, and now I'm going to show you how to put together the different patterns made with the dots and dashes ruler. So this one here, I've used the batik bands and they work perfectly for this, and I've also used one of the offcut bags to make some of the arches, the arcs. I've laid them out with the ends overlapping. Now, because when I open this up, I want this side, every other one to be on the other side. I'm going to have to go along and lift up each one. So this goes round and the red one's on top, but then this one, it needs to be on top as well. So I'll lift it out and put it on the top. And this one needs to be underneath, and that's right. And if I had another one there, the yellow one would need to be on the top. Now the next thing to do is to actually stitch this down, because rather than stitch those two together straight off, I'm going to pin them together. Whoops. And then I'm going to stitch them in, because we don't want any movement in this, because it won't work if you have any movement. So a few pins in there will save a lot of tears. I'm not a great one for pinning a lot of things in patchwork, but this time it really does help. I'm also going to use a 1/4 inch foot, but I'm not going to sew a whole 1/4 inch seam. I'm going to just sew slightly less than a 1/4 inch seam, because when you're stitching them together, the two sides together, you don't want any of this stitching to show up, particularly because I'm using black thread. And black thread is not what I normally use, but it's in because I want you to be able to see the stitches when I hold it up to you in a second. So I'm just going to stitch straight along. It doesn't matter that there are parts without any other layer of fabric there. If you're using a thinner fabric, feel free to use the stitch and tear that's included in one of the bundles, because it will help you with your positioning to make sure that these arcs stay flat. With this batik, and because I've had quite a bit of practice now, I don't need to do that. I'm just taking out the pins as I get to as I reach them. And again, I'm just using slightly less than a 1/4 inch stitch. And I'm going to stitch straight off the edge. Straight off the edge. Okay. Needle out, foot up. Okay. So if I hold that up to the camera, you should be able to see that that's nice and straight. Now, I'm going to put the other piece straight on the top. Whoops. And stitch all the way down. And this time I'm going to use, making sure that there's no threads to get caught in the machine, the 1/4 inch seam all the way down. I'm going to speed it up slightly as well. I'm not going to pin this one. If you want to pin it, I'm not going to stop you. It feels really nice when it's going through the machine, when it's you've got lots of layers put together and it's all tightly sewn. It just feels like a nice project. And off the end. Okay. So when I open this up, it kind of looks like that. So what I need to do now is I'm just going to finger press this. I would normally iron this. And then this one goes over this side and finger pressed. The red one goes over as well, and that's finger pressed. And this pattern is called the wiggle. Now you have a choice about how you secure those, and I'll go on to that later. But I wanted to lay out some of the other patterns that you could do as well. So that's the wiggle. But if you wanted to have something, I've stitched two of these together so that you can get the effect here. So if you wanted to have, what's it called? The Wibbly Wobbly, which is the one that I cut earlier with a thicker side opening up at once, a little piece and a thin piece there. So you would have them, you would lay them out like this. Can you see that? Whoops. And you would put the thicker ends together. Let's try that one, because that's a bit lighter. The thicker ends. And that's the effect that you would get. So you'd get a wibbly line, a thicker and thinner line, like that, all the way along. So that's the wiggle. Semi-match is, all right, okay, so semi-match is when you have, where are we? This one. So you have almost matching pieces and they're stitched together, and you can put them together between two. So we'll do a quick little bit of that and put, so 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so I'll just stitch 3 together, fold it over, I'm not even pinning these on because these are solid pieces. They don't need to be pinned quite so securely. That's 1. Fold it over. I'm going to stitch through this again. Snip through the end of this fold that I've done. And if I open that up, you'll see that you've got semicircles. Now when you're doing something like this, the semicircles, I've done one here that's stitched together already. Oops, like that. So this one I've called a cluster. So I've just bunched them together. Now I've left this deliberately so that I opened the back up so that you can see that at the back you need to open up the seams as well before you stitch them down, because otherwise you'll get lumps and bumps and you don't want to do that. We have here, this one is called open. So I have the little circles on semicircles on one side and arcs on the other. And that's done the same way as that. This one is the semicircles on one side and arcs on the other, so it's like a wiggle and a semicircle combination. This one we've called frill. And what have I got here? Oh, this is the next one I'm going to show you. It takes a little bit longer to show you, so I'm going to go into the next video with that one.